about that constraint right there, that bottleneck, if you will? We'll kind of hand it off to you. I know, like, we did a recent survey in Basecamp, which is kind of our Facebook membership site, and the hot topic was hiring and recruiting, and the biggest pain point. Which, and Robbie was saying, like, all these new grads are getting ready, so we want to make sure we're prepared and doing what we can to make the most of that opportunity there. So yeah, if you'll just drop some nuggets for us too, man. This has been
Love
great.
it, guys. So excited to be here today. Want to thank Robbie first and foremost for that beautiful setup, because as he's talking about the marketing machine, setting up the business for growth and scale, it comes down to the team. And I know what it's like to try to have to learn to build a dream team. I went from having one location in the middle of nowhere, Florence, Arizona, surrounded by 18 prisons. I used to hire on the fogged mirror rule. Do you guys know what that is? If someone fogs a mirror, you hire them.
No.
So basically, they had a pulse. I would
Yeah.
hire anybody for any reason because it was so hard for me to get people to go work out in the middle of nowhere, Arizona. And that's when it occurred to me that I needed help, and I started getting coaching. So what I'm going to do to reward you guys for I'm the last speaker after all these brilliant speakers. If you're listening to this later, especially for those of you who are here, I'm going to make a commitment to you that you're going to 10x your recruiting capabilities by the end of this call. That's my commitment
Let's
to you.
go.
And I
All
am
right.
so excited to share what I'm going to talk about here, because here's what I've learned. I went from that one single location and being told by a coach that I had very little to no natural recruiting capabilities to having 5 locations and me having a dream team running them so well that I was working less than 10 hours a week. We were 5 million in gross revenue, running a 30% profit margin. That's why I ended up selling my business. I wanted to really give back to the people who were in the game changers like you, who are taking the time and effort and risk to change our industry and make the bigger impact in the profession. And so I ended up exiting. And what the biggest lesson of my professional career, guys, was the biggest shocker to me, which is that my legacy as a business owner after 20 years wasn't the patient care. It wasn't the money, even though that was nice. It was the team that I built. So before we even kick this off, I want to frame this correctly in a couple of ways. Number one, recruiting is the quintessential expression of leadership that we can have. What's the number one job of a leader? To build more leaders. So as leaders, we so often feel invalidated. Who here has ever been fired by an employee when they quit, or gotten an email on a Friday night saying, hey, I'm out of here? You guys are the bravest ones, because you're the ones who are facing that day after day. But the opportunity to change the world through your team is huge. And I will tell you this one thing, as I learned, is that recruiting is easy for those who learn how. Even in this industry, with more people leaving the PT industry than entering it. For those who know how to recruit, they have, like Robbie said, they have this capability of winning the game. And once you learn how to recruit, you're going to be doing it differently than everyone else out there. Currently, right now on Indeed, there's over 85,000 job ads for physical therapists right now. 85,000 on Indeed. And I have reviewed thousands of them. I have helped hundreds of companies over the years recruit. And let me tell you, almost all the job ads are the same. You got to come join our fast-growing company where we care about quality care. And so the cool thing is, in this environment with all that's going on, you only have to be 1% different to be in a completely different area. It's a blue ocean strategy that is going to transform how you operate. And so there's a lot that goes into that. But the recruiting piece, it's really divided into 2 key elements. You have your clinical piece and then your non-clinical piece. We're going to talk about a technique that I'm just going to give away that's part of my program. It's called the LinkedIn Igniter program. I guarantee Robbie and his team are familiar with elements of this, because it's a very foundational tool for marketing in general. But here's the thing. Do you know that you're probably not suffering with a recruiting problem? This is true. I have yet to work with any physical therapy practice owner or leader who isn't actually really good at recruiting, because recruiting is just marketing and sales, guys. And you guys do that every day. If you're a physical therapist who has patients that love you and bring you cookies, and you're converting them and they're showing up to their visits, you're actually really good at recruiting. Because most people, when they get leads, they convert them. But the problem is the leads. most PT owners I work with struggle with just getting more leads. If you had way more people applying for your jobs, you know that you would be converting them. I'm sure you could do better with your interview skills and negotiating skills and all that kind of stuff. And that's where my clients want to focus, is on those elements. But it just comes down to getting people to know that you're alive. So when I sold my practice, I did something unique. I merged my 5 locations with 4 other companies. We created 26 locations in Arizona. We changed the name. We called it Empower. I was by myself in recruiting physical therapists for all 26 locations. And I never had more than 1 opening at a time. And do you know why? For 2 reasons. Number one, it's easier to recruit for a company that's bigger because they automatically generate more awareness that they exist. And then number 2, my goal was never to hire for a full team. It was to build a bench, a physical therapist who knew I was around, who my company was alive, and that they were wanting to join my practice at any given time. So those 2 mindset shifts are huge in helping PTs understand what the correct target is, because the correct target isn't to fill your team. We get into this scarcity mindset of like, if I could just have 1 good therapist, I could treat, instead of 60 hours a week, I can treat 40 hours a week and run my business and maybe see my kids. We have to set the correct target, knowing that you can learn to build your dream team. You can build a bench of physical therapists that are waiting for you to just let them know that it's around. You just didn't know that. So don't feel bad. If you're struggling in recruiting, do not feel bad in any way. There is no training on this. Unlike everything else that's out there, this isn't a tool in your practice owner tool belt. Recruiting is its own flipping belt, and anyone can learn it. And I've seen that in rural clinics in the middle of nowhere, Alaska, all the way to 100+ PT practices in New York. You can do it because if your patients love you and you have a practice that is just, so busy that you're not balancing your life, you have something special to offer. So learning how to identify that is huge. So we're going to talk about is probably like this LinkedIn Igniter program. We're going to talk about how to quickly and efficiently get more PTs aware that you're alive, aware of who you are, wanting to join you, and go from there. Do you guys remember in Robbie's beautiful demonstration, what is the key word, begins with an R, that goes from new patient to progress note? What was the R word he said to describe that journey between that creates the patient to stay in there between that time frame? Does anyone remember?
I'm gonna give it to you, Will, but I'll let them see if they were paying attention. It's the number 1 word. It's the first thing that starts the whole process.
Yes.
Relationship. Let's go.
It's so funny because Robbie's genius is so fun to watch, and it's as he's going through things, I've learned this, that there's a like flavor of ice cream with great leaders, and there's a consistency between them as well. His brain operates in a way that I love because it's very similar to how I was taught to see the world, and it boils down to relationships, and that's why you're so good at owning a business and you're so successful. So it's about building relationships. So I'm going to teach you a very quick version of the LinkedIn Igniter program. I would be happy to come back and go into more detail. This is a core element of Rockstar Recruiter, a course that I am not trying to sell. I am actually not trying to sell it because I don't want to spend more time teaching, but I do offer it for people. But LinkedIn Igniter program is a methodology that was taught to me through an individual who was basically teaching me to grow a B2B business that I owned at the time. So I'm going to share screen. We're going to get right into it. So hopefully you're aware of this functionality. If you're not aware of this in LinkedIn, it's going to blow your mind. But if you're aware of this, we're going to talk about how to leverage it for you to be able to grow. So if you sign up for, it used to be part of like a free membership, but if you sign up for a paid membership in LinkedIn, you have the capability to identify people in your area that are going to be your avatars, right? So in the course, I will tell you that the first thing we identify with you is your core differentiator. What is the thing that makes you different than everybody else other than quality care? What is the thing that you do or how you are in a way that is unique? Once we do that, then we create an avatar. Your avatar is your perfect hire. Because guys, we're only as great as we tolerate. So oftentimes we go through the fogged mirror hiring rule instead of really shooting for the stars. And what's funny is that's when recruiting gets easier, is when we get more specific on what we're hiring for and the personality type and the exact like perfect fit. Once we can identify that person, then we can get in their head, understand their fears, hopes, dreams, wants, and message things to them. But all of that, once we get that figured out, you don't even have to have all that to do what we're going to do here. So if you go into LinkedIn, you can search for physical therapists. Sorry, I've got someone who's interested in, in service I'm offering over here. Once you search for physical therapists, you come over here to people. There's lots of different like things you can find, but you're looking for people. And I am in Arizona, which is a great segue into saying, guys, come to Arizona, come join Robbie, me, and everybody else in having a transformative experience here in September. It's going to be phenomenal. So we're going to go search for physical therapists in Arizona, but I could search Gilbert, Arizona if I wanted to, which is the actual city within the metro area that I'm in. But let's just say I want to target physical therapists in Arizona. It will pull up all the PTs, PTAs, anyone who has physical therapist in there in that regard. And so that sets me up for success because geographically, obviously, there's a huge opportunity for me to reach out to people nearby and let them know that I'm around. I want you guys to understand that when it comes to recruiting, it's about consistency. The number one mistake I see people make in recruiting is that because they're so invalidated by it, they do it very sporadically and they don't know. The second thing is they just don't know what to do. So they post an ad or they put money behind it. They don't know that there's things you could do every day. And I don't want to overwhelm you. I tell people just spend 15 minutes a day recruiting and it will yield 10x results, even if all you do is this. So you come in here, you find people in your area, and you can connect with any and all of them. So I want you to think about these individuals as potential hires. You have opportunities to research them. I'm in Gilbert, Chandler's next door. Let's look at this young lady right here. So I'm looking at her background. I'm looking at her activity. So she's currently a physical therapist at 360, August 23rd for 1 year. And then she was a technician. So she's a newer PT, right? She's been out for a year. I know a lot about this company 360 just because Arizona is a small playground. So I can already tell you some of the things that she's probably struggling with. I already know how to kind of reach out to her. But what I'm looking for in the first contact is something that connects us. So in this case, the geography makes it really easy because she's in Chandler, I'm in Gilbert. I can always use that, but I'm looking for anything else, common connections that we might have. This is getting in the way there. Let's see. Similar profiles. There's some promoted. So we're looking for anything that's connecting, a common university, a common interest, whatever she might post, right? So what's this camp that she's doing? I'm excited to bring this camp, help with Nike sports camps. Okay. So I could look into this. I'm looking for something to connect with her because everyone who has LinkedIn, every day you're getting people who just want to connect with you. But they have done studies on this and research that if we can message them with a connection, it is dramatically more effective and it gives people reality. Did I say without sending a note? I was talking.
Oh, no.
So normally what I would do.
That's how not to do it.
Yeah, don't do that. Don't talk to someone while you're doing this and accidentally send it because the chances of her accepting this are really low now. It's less than 30%. So for me, what I wanted to do, and it shows my common connections right here, right? Oh, Caleb Pollock. She's a current employee of mine at Virtual Rockstar. So I could really dive into this and say, hi, we'll call her Sam. Hey, Sam, this is Will. I am a physical therapist in Gilbert. I see you're in Chandler. I'm trying to build my network. By the way, I see that you know Kayla Pollock. She's a good friend of mine. Anyway, I just wanted to add you to my network. I hope you'll connect with me. That note totally changes the game because then they reach out and they're connecting. And then what I do is I go through a sequence of reaching out and creating value. The commonality when it comes to marketing is we want to give 3 times before we ask for anything. So we give information, we give podcast links of successful things. If we're doing research with this young lady and we find out that this is a camp that I know a lot about, I might find another camp that's similar and go, hey, I saw that you were helping out with that Nike sports camp. Here's another camp in the area that I'm going to, or you might be interested in. Those kinds of things start to engage people in a very personalized and familiar way. And this does take time, but I have it boiled down to 15 minutes a day where you can throw that in there and start to build those relationships. And then when it's time, usually the 3rd or 4th connection, assuming they go back and forth, then what I try to do if they're local is get them into let's grab coffee, grab lunch, whatever it is, right? If they won't do that, Or if they do that, either way, either on LinkedIn or in person, I ask the magic question. Hey, do you happen to know anybody who would be interested in working, who's looking for work as a physical therapist? I'm looking for, and then you describe your avatar. The studies they've shown that engage people when you say, hey, do you happen to know someone who would be interested in? It disengages the sales question of, hey, would you be interested in? Because when we get asked for a sale, we get organically defensive about it. But if we say, hey, do you know someone? Immediately, people go, well, why aren't they asking me? Right? And then it forces them to have that FOMO, fear of missing out. And they start thinking of people, and then you can have a really attractive referral program. Like, hey, because listen, Sam, if you know someone who would love to be the only person I'm looking to build as a potential leader in my practice, I will tell you, I want to put my money where my mouth is. I will give you $2,500 as a thank you once they hit their 90 days. I'm real big on big referral bonuses. Most people have like an internal company referral bonus program. It's really small. It's like $500, $800. Google the king of recruiting. They did studies on this and found that once you hit the $2,000 mark, it totally changes people's desire to engage. They also did something that 10x their results with internal referrals. Instead of doing $2,000 cash, they applied $2,000 to a 2-day trip to Hawaii, which was airfare for 2 people and hotel for 2 nights. That got 10x the results. So when you're looking at building your recruiting and your dream team, it's important to recognize that this is a constant effort, 15 minutes a day, constantly reaching out, building your database, because the size of your network is directly proportional to how the quality of your team is. So if I have a real big network of PTs and PTAs and I'm nurturing it constantly, I guarantee I'm fully staffed. I guarantee I have a bunch of people that are looking to join the team once there becomes an opening. And once you start creating that scarcity, it becomes super easy to start winning the game. So that's on that side of things. I'm going to go over this real fast. When it comes to non-clinical side of things, I am high into virtual assistants. We are finding that virtual assistants can replace every non-clinical role in practices. And this is the quickest thing that I'm doing that's growing. I just wanted to share a really quick case study with you guys. It'll take less than a minute. But essentially, what Robbie said, another thing he said that I loved, was this idea that like the front desk is the bottleneck for sales. Like when he said that, I almost screamed. I was like, thank you. Because it is not the position that we're currently, most PT owners, myself included, used to find the greatest personality at the lowest price per dollar because my margins sucked so bad initially. So I was just kind of finding like that person. And I was always curious, like, why do they always seem like they're doing me a favor by showing? I hated that. So we did a case study. This was what started this business for me a couple of years ago. I had been hiring virtual assistants for my businesses and for me because once I felt like I mastered recruiting, it became this whole new world. By the way, as a quick side note, do you guys know that you are one of the best business owners of any industry in the world? I have a network of non-PT businesses, and they have validated that it is absolutely one of the toughest businesses to own for multiple reasons. This being one of them on the recruiting side, but the fact that you're in business at all means if you started any other business, your likelihood of success is really high. So here's a case study I had. So here's the problem. Right now, the average cost for a front desk is $17.11 per hour with benefits. Without benefits, you're looking at $35,000 a year, but with benefits and any sort of time off, you're looking at more like $50,000 a year, right? If you're paying payroll tax and all that other stuff. So yeah, cost of employment's going up. So here's a subject. Pain Science Physical Therapy in Washington was this group that we piloted a couple years ago. And so I leveraged what I've been doing for virtual assistants with them. And they had this amazing company, really good PTs. I met her because she was in my Rockstar Recruiter coaching program where we taught her how to start hiring PTs. And when she started hiring PTs, well, of course, she was losing conversions at that front desk. So what we did was she wanted to do this. She replaced everyone at the front desk with virtual assistants. So we outsourced, we interviewed, we basically found the best people for them. We even helped train them. And the reason we went to the Philippines is because that country, more than any other country, has experience in healthcare. They're real big on HIPAA laws and compliance. They also have the best English. So to set up, we set everything up. got things going within 2 weeks because we can find people really quick. The results were huge. The biggest thing that we noticed after 4 weeks was an increase in their percentage of arrival. They started getting into that 90% of arrival range. They increased by 10% from 80 to 90. And then, of course, they weren't managing all the headaches that came with the employees. But the biggest interesting piece was not only did the patient care increase, and because these people in the Philippines, they're more sales reps than they are front desk. They care. One of those people were a physical therapist, and collectively, she's saving $50,000 a year because of the savings that occur when you're hiring a virtual assistant, and she's having better results. So this is her last quote, and I'll say this before I open up for questions. This is one of the best things I have done for my practice to make my life easier and to make better profits. I love that this job also brings a family out of poverty, which it did. Both people cried when we offered the job to her. Those were the first 2 virtual assistants that we hired. We just hired our 56th virtual assistant. We are helping dozens of companies across the country. 50% of the people we help 50% of the virtual assistants we're hiring are the 2nd or 3rd virtual assistant for the same company. We can replace just about anything outside of that. So when it comes to recruiting, I want you to recognize at the end of the day, it's about relationships. If you learned the key word for today with Robbie and me, relationships, and that you're already amazing at it. You're a master at it. You're already so good. You just don't know how to apply it. Robbie's going to help you in those areas, and he can help you in recruiting as well. He's very talented. Once you're good at one thing, you're good at many. I can obviously help you on the recruiting side, whether it's just trying to offload anything that's non-clinical, or if you're looking for like recruiting help, come in September. Again, I'm not going to try to upsell you. I just want you guys to have the tools that you can have so you can spend 15 to 20 minutes a day building that dream team of yours so that when you exit and you do what I did, you go to Europe for 6 months without work with your kids, you have these people that you would take a bullet for, at least a non-lethal bullet, and they would do it for you. To this day, it's been 6 years since I sold. We get on, we used to do a daily stand-up via text where it was like what you're working on and how we can help. We still jump on all these years later, just out of the blue, once every quarter, so probably, hey guys, what are you working on? How can we help? We are still a team. We are still connected. And at the end of the day, before I go to questions, just remember the coolest thing we can learn as business owners is how we can turn that team and turn them into a family, because that's what you deserve after all that risk you've taken on. So thank you for your time, guys. I hope that was as impactful as I was intending it to be.
Yeah, awesome, Will. Any questions? I've got one, but I'll let Amy or Brett jump in there if y'all have something.
I just gotta say, I hired my VA through Virtual Rockstar, and it was an awesome experience.
That's right, Amy. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I came on. I saw you speak with these guys a couple weeks ago, and it was a Friday, and I was like, I'm jumping on this. I'm going to try it out. And within the next Friday, I had hired my VA, and she's amazing. I'm blown away by the whole experience and by my VA. So
I will tell you though that like when my team was going through that with you, they were talking about how great you were. Like it's kind of like what I think Lee was saying that earlier with Robbie. Like his marketing stuff can work, but if you don't have something great to sell, you're a leader that it's super fun to work with, because people like your VA are just looking for leadership. You know what I mean? And so in America, it's harder to find those people at the front desk, for me at least. It used to be of just like people who would get that passionate, like cry when they get a job offer.
Right.
So thank you, Amy. You've been phenomenal.
Oh, thank you.
Awesome. Cool. So quick question, Will. So is LinkedIn kind of the go-to for professionals? Like, there's kind of that social media overload where you go TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. I'm just like, I can only handle, like, I'm on Instagram basically. Is that, do I need to kind of earmark that 15 minutes on LinkedIn and start? I feel like even on Instagram, I may like just the tactic you were talking about.
Yeah.
I can probably do that within Instagram as well.
Absolutely.
But anyway, just curious. Yeah.
Absolutely. And, this is like level 1. Level 10 is having your own social media accounts and nurturing them in that way. I like social media accounts for marketing for new patients, but that's where most providers only focus. Most providers don't have anything. And that's okay if you don't. That's why you should hire a virtual assistant, because they can run all that for you. But the idea being your social media should be absolutely focused mostly on recruiting. And what that looks like is just highlighting team members. Susan's been here for a year. We got her flowers. Isn't that great? Like Jerry is celebrating his 25th wedding anniversary, like featuring your people, getting them a sense. If you want to, the best company I've ever seen recruit is ATI. So go to their website and look at how they do ads and everything. and I've spent hours with their recruiters at these events because they clean up. I've had people share with me their stats. Think of it like this. You have to be a master of recruiting to convince people to go work for that company.
Right.
Like you've got to be almost not transparent, but like if they can do it and they don't have PTs doing it, like they have these really attractive younger people out there just being like, hey, hot stuff, would you like to, so like for you guys, there's things that's their secret advantage. Yours is so much more meaningful that once you understand, once you see it, and once you can message it, and then you know how to build that bench. I've never had a client struggle in hiring PTs, guys, except for those who really are introverted, people who are just like, they struggle in owning the business on every level. I've had that a few times, but 98, 99% of people, they're killer at it. They're killer at it.
Sweet.
They just don't know what they don't know and how to get leads.
Cool. All right. Well, hope you guys found this valuable. I mean, I've got like 8 or 10 insights that I've jotted down on my phone as you guys, both you and Robbie were dropping stuff. So this is just a teaser for what's coming in September in Scottsdale. So we'll be having more information on how you can sign up for that. We also have a hot seat component that's a day before the event launches. So you'll definitely, and I think we only have like 8 slots for that. And if Amy's taking one, we're down to 7. So
Yeah.
that's going to be that.
Oh, it's definitely
a
mine.
game changer. Yeah. So I know, just speaking from the PTB founders, like that when we did that for our own practices, it just like 10x our practices and just took us where we were, 5-6 years ago. It'd be insane just to see where we've come. But anyway, yeah. So we're super pumped for that. We'll have more information on that. Again, thank you guys for participating, and Robbie and Will, thank y'all for sharing your insights. And so looking forward to September. So we'll see you guys.